Okay, so if you look at this book, the CCNA, the Cisco Certified Network Associate Deluxe Study Guide, right? And this is chapter 4. And I want you to read and study this chapter 4 because a lot of final exam problem, right? Many of the final exam problem will be from this chapter and my homework assignment as well, okay? And some of the problems, especially the review question problems, are very good, right? So there's a lot of review question problems. And we're going to solve a few review question problem today, right? But anyway, so let's look at the ClassB subnetting, okay? So we already talked about ClassB subnetting. And then this ClassB subnetting, right? So let's take a look at the ClassB subnetting. Okay. So the subnetting with the ClassB subnetting, the first, for the ClassB subnetting, these are the possible subnet mask, right? For the ClassB. So for example, when I say /19, right? You should be able to see, oh, the /19 is 255, 255, 224.0. This has to come up immediately, right? This is something that you have to think in your head, right? And able to come out immediately if he wants to pass Cisco CCNA, okay? The good thing is I'm an instructor, I don't have to really memorize anything, but if he wants to pass, right? And the Cisco CCNA exam, right? It's better for you to you practice so many times, and then when you see, for example, /24, you should immediately tell, okay, /24 is equivalent to 255, 255.0, right? For the 255, it should be 128. For the /26 is 192, 224, 240, 248, 252, right? For the /17 means third octet, right? 128, 192, 224, 240, right? So there's a patterns, as you can see, right? So first of all, I want you to know the prefix notation, right? Because I'm going to use them interchangeably. Sometimes I'm going to use the subnet mask. Sometimes I'm going to use / notation, right? So I want you to know both notation, right? Because, okay. So when you look at the network diagram, right? If you look at the network topology or the network diagram, they use / notations 99% of time, right? Because this is too long. So when you look at the network topology diagram, they always use / notation, okay? And okay, so there's a practice example 1B, and there's many practical examples. And this is what I like about this book. Pretty much it has all the many examples. Even for the ClassB, I think maybe, I don't know how many, it's many. Like maybe 6 or 7, right? Okay, and then subnetting in your head. Are you nuts? The subnet ClassB address in our head, right? And my answer is yes if you want to pass Cisco CCNA. And because when you have a job interview, right? If they ask me the questions about subnetting, you cannot tell them, okay, hold on, I need to log into my CSUSB, the library account, and I need to look at this textbook, and I need to find out my subnet mask. Could you please wait, right? You cannot really tell that, right? During the job interview, or when you are taking the Cisco CCNA exam, right? Okay. And then let's talk about ClassB subnetting in a little bit detail. Right? After my lecture, I think this will make more sense to you guys. So let's take a look at the ClassB subnetting. Okay. And first, let's just summarize. Okay, let's just summarize what we have learned so far. Okay. So we learned that there is a Class C subnetting, right? Class C subnetting, right? We learned that there is a Class C C subnetting, right? So when you look at the class C subnetting, right? I'd like to draw, I'm not really good at drawing, so I'll just do my best, okay? So how many octets we have? We have 4 octets, right? This is class B. And then, the third octets, right, is a network portions, right? And then if you look at the 4th octets, and somewhere here, right, this portion is subnet portions, and then this portion is what? A host portion, right? And then number of bits for the subnet portion, we'll call it X, and the number of bits used for the host portion is Y. So we know that it's X plus Y is always 8 for the class C subnetting, right? And by the way, there's another thing that you should notice here is that first octet is from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8th, right? And then for the second octet, it's starting from the 9. It's not 8th. It's starting from the 9th bit. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? And then up to what? 16. So I want you to pay attention to this number. This is 8, right? Still 8 belongs to the first octet. The 9, starting from the 9th bit, that's the second octet. And the 16 is also the second octet, right? And then starting from the third octet is what? It's starting from the 17th bit, right? And then ends at what? 24, right? So this is 17 and this is 24. The next one is what? Next one is 25th, right? And then all the way to what? 32, right? So that's a 4th octet, right? So that's a class C subnetting. And let's look at the class B subnetting. The idea is exactly the same, right? Idea is exactly the same. Right? This is class B subnetting. And then this is the network portion for the class B subnetting. Okay? And then somewhere starting from the 3rd octet, I don't know where it's going to end, but let's say somewhere like here, right? We don't know, right? So this is like X bits. X bit is used. X could be 1 or X could be like 15, right? So this is like what? For the subnet portions, right? And this could be what? The host portions. And then this is like Y bits are used, right? And this is for the host portion. So for the class B subnetting, X plus Y is 16, right? So when X is a 1, you know that Y is a 15, right? When X is a 15, Y is 1. Okay? So that's a class B subnetting. And once again, it's the same thing, right? It's starting from the 17th bit and ends with the 24, right? This is like 3rd octet. And the 4th octet, it's starting from 25 and all the way to 32, right? So any questions so far? Okay? And then now let's take a look at the class A subnetting. Okay? The class A subnetting, right? I'm going to I'll do my best. Okay, I hope you can read this. For the class C subnetting, the network portion is only for the first portion. So this is the network portions, right? And then for the subnet portions, right? We don't know the length of the subnet portions. So I'll just, somewhere here, right? This is the subnet portions. And then this is what? The host portions. And then the number of bits used for the subnet portion, I'll call it X. The number of bits used for the host portion is Y. So for the class A subnetting, X plus Y is always what? 24. Okay? So any question? Okay, now having said that, there's a couple of more things that I'd like to add to this diagram. Is that there are a couple of more. Okay, I'm not sure if I can move this a little bit. Good. Yeah, that's what I like about this OneNote. Okay, so this is ClassB Subnetting. So let's just go back to ClassB Subnetting. There are a couple of more things that I'd like to add. So if you look at my lecture note, I said there are two different cases. Okay, before that, I'd like to add one more thing to this diagram. So usually, when you look at a ClassB subnetting, right? Hold on. Let me just... Okay. And then for this, let me just... Oops. Okay. So let's go back to class C subnetting. Okay. So usually what is given, right, is the network address and then what? The subnet mask information, right? So in the ClassB subnetting, as you know that it's usually the subnet mask info. If I give you the subnet mask information, right? If, then that is be what? It's 255.255.255 dot something, right? So for the class C subnetting. This X could be what? 128, 198, 224, 240, 248, and etc. Right? But for the ClassB subnetting, if you look at the ClassB subnetting, right? It's going to be different. The ClassB subnetting is going to be 255.255. Okay? But sometimes it could be X. Okay, I don't want to call it this is X, so maybe I should use a different notations. Well, what should I call? Okay, I'll just call it M and N. Okay, there's some number, right? Some number. Okay, you know what? I'll just use X. By the way, this X is not this one. Okay, there's some number, right? There's some number dot 0, or there are two cases. I'll call it this is case number 1, and then case number 2 is 255.255.255 dot some number. Okay, so I'll call it this is case 1, case 2, sorry. So for example, so that means, okay, so let's take a look at the case 1. The case 1 is then when X is really like ends this boundary line, right? This boundary lines ends on within the third octet. Okay, so for the case number 1, if I just redraw this for the case number 1, what happened is, let me just redraw this one. Okay, so the case number 1, right? You know what? I think that's probably, this is something that I should do. Okay, so for the case number 1, right? For the case number 1, that means usually the X, right? The X, oops. The X is really like the x is somewhere in the third octets, right? And then this is a y, right? Well, the x is usually like ends within the third octets. So that means x could be what? X could be 1, 2, 3, and all the way to 8th. This is like case number 1. So that means this x is 1 means what? If you use slash notation, it's going to be slash 17. But this is going to be slash 18. And this is going to be slash 19, right? And all the way, so this is what? This is the slash 24. Right? That's a case number 1. In that case, and then, so basically for the case number 1, right? Our emphasis is going to be on the third octets. We only worried about third octets. When we try to find the valid subnet IP addresses, network addresses for each subnet, right? We only worried about third octets. And then for the case number 2, right? For the case number 2, so let's say I give you one more example for the case number 1. If it's a 17, right? My subnet mask is 255.255.128.0. If it's a slash 18, it's going to be 255.255. What is that? 190. Is it 196? Yeah, 190. Is it 196 or 198?
92.
Oh, 192. Thank you. Good. So I'm learning from my students. Good. So 192. And these numbers, right? You have to memorize. And good thing is I'm an instructor, so I don't have to memorize, but right, and etc. And then for the case number 2, right? We know that my subnet mask is going to be somewhat 255 and 255.255. That's some number. The number being 128, 192, 224, and etc. Right? So that means, for the case number 2, I can redraw this x and y. The x for the case number 2, the x is going to be more like, my x is going to be ends somewhere in the 4th octet area, right? And then this is going to be my y. Okay, so that is going to be my y. In that case, the slash notation, right? I can use what? I can use 25th, or 25, 26, 27, 28, and all the way to 30. Okay? For 25, meaning what? 255.255.255. What? 128. So that's the subnet mask information given, 128, which is slash 25. And slash 26 is going to be 192, and etc. So in that case, in the case number 2, we have to really focus on the 4th octets when it comes to finding the network address for each subnet. Okay? And that's the general idea for the ClassB subnetting. You only have a case 1 and case 2. That's it. And obviously for the class A, we'll have 3 cases, right? So if I just draw the picture, add more annotation to this diagram, I can say this is what? This is a case 1, right? And this is what? This is case 2. And for the class A, we can say that, oh, by the way, this is what? This is case 1, case 2, and this is case 3, right? And for the class C, we only have 1 case. right? Okay, so no matter what, okay, no matter what, okay, no matter what, whether we use class A, B, or C, there's one thing in common. What is it? This is a true. Whether we use class B, A, B, or C, since we have X and Y, right? Number of subnets. By the way, this is true for class A, B, and C subnetting, right? So number of subnets is what? 2 to the what? X, right? And the number of usable host IP address is what? Is equal to what? 2 to the what? Y minus 2. So this is the same for class A, B, or C, regardless. And one more thing. From this, we know that the block size of each subnet, each apple barrel, right? Apple box. It's what? It's 2 to the Y block size. And of course, you know that this minus 2 is 1 for the network address and 1 for the broadcast address. That's why when I say usable host IP address, right? Number of apples that each apple box can hold is 2 to the minus 2, but even though it has 2 to the Y space, right? And this is because why? Because there's a network address, broadcast address. So any question up to this point? Is there any question? Any question up to this point? Before I move to the next, before I proceed, any question? Okay. Let's take a couple of minute break, okay? So like 1 minute break.